We are here with top 4 finisher at Universus Nationals, Mitchell Cimino of Team MGLA, with his Bertolt deck on
the fire symbol.
The fire symbol, the orange one, the canonically accurate Bertolt.
Would you believe it? He has more than one. Yeah, so context for this event for myself, I won the Wish tournament in February of the previous year, which was the 2024 season. I guess this is technically still the 2024 season. And all 3 of the major events that I attended the last year after that, I kind of sandbagged and did not particularly prep that hard or try that hard, and I would often drop and go play Retro Cube with the previous year's World's winner, Nick Reagan. And I didn't try as hard, but I did still want to help my friends test, and I do really still like this game and want to play competitively. So at Nationals, I kind of was still sandbagging a little bit in that I brought a bunch of cards for other people to borrow, didn't have enough cards to continue to put my deck together, and had to be handed by Ryan and Wub, also both now current Worlds competitors, for this game, an entire deck that we made like 35 changes to the night prior with 20 minutes left on the clock. And
it was the bottom of the 9th.
Bottom of the 9th,
bases were loaded.
Yeah. I called my shot. I pointed to the stands, and we hit a home run with this deck. I kind of learned what the deck did that was like incredibly efficient and good position-wise in the format as I was playing. So I'm speaking from a point of experience, but know that I did somewhat stumble into this the night prior. So I played Bert. We all know this character's broken. The reason that you didn't see that many of them in Top Cut is because a lot of the people were hedging for the Death Bert list, the Turbo Flip list, trying to get onto the backside and then for sure kill people. Every deck in the format is kind of gatekept by this character in that they have to have a like decent to good matchup against him or a way to play into him, and if they don't, then they can't really play. So what you wind up seeing is a lot of decks that have a good Bert matchup or a way to play into him, and no Berts because they all get cannibalized by those people. However, this list doesn't flip. I flipped 3 times.
The backside is blank.
The backside has no text. I flipped 3 times the entire tournament. Once it won me a game, but I'm pretty sure anything would have won me that game at that point. And the other 2 times I lost, both of which were on stream, unrelated. But yeah, so getting into the deck profile from here, it's honestly a matter of like what the fire symbol specifically does for this character as opposed to death. So starting with the spam, fire spam is really kind of the shining point in why you play this over death. Death has like one of the best spams in the game in Botan's coaching. However, when we are trying to just chuck 4 to 5 attacks per turn minimum against our opponents, the check hacking from Ignite, which notably can block Besiege, haha.
Chucking Botans.
Botans, yes. Theoretically.
So it's better.
Correct, it feels worse though.
Yeah.
Besiege being blockable is important, but mostly Ignite is there to smooth over your checks, hacking like that, and the fire symbol, with a lot of this spam, specifically One-Man Inferno getting to mill, can get you to your remove triggers, for the term that they use in this game, I guess, is Bing Bong triggers, any of your like minus damage triggers or when discarded or when this hits the bin during the enhanced step, yada yada. I candidly did not use this enhance once the entire weekend. This realistically should have just been a 4th copy of One-Man Inferno because I realized the equity of this card way too late, but we, I think, only had One-Man Inferno, and I, at the beginning of round 1, sprinted across the hall to buy 2 copies of One-Man Inferno from the vendor because I forgot to.
It was the XR that we cut from the Hawks deck.
Correct, yes.
It's the only one we had with us.
You'll notice some of these cards are really nice looking and shiny. None of them are mine. Most of them are Ryan's. The shared symbol between those cards is generally order. The spam is really important on the fire symbol. You can turbo really fast with the fire cards 2-10 removed, specifically because of Lust for Battle, which is, I think, probably the best card in my deck over the course of the weekend, which is crazy to say about a blank foundation, but these 2 work in such like insane synergy. Whenever you check this on your turn, just because it has to hit the bin during the combat phase, you can remove it. So that turbos you towards your 10 removed much faster. On top of that, hacking your opponent's checks and giving functional minus speed across a turn with Lust for Battle is what really gives you the edge in the Bertolt matchup. Because if you're playing against the Death like Turbo Flip Bertolt, they often, for lack of a better term, can't throw on suit, like can't throw 2 of the same card type to give minus or plus damage if they don't have at least 1 card in hand prior to activating the enhance. And what that winds up meaning is that Lust for Battle hacking their check -1 over the course of their string, they're fighting you and trying to make your attacks printed damage, but their check for the entirety of the turn, because you see so many cards, is going to go down and down and down. When it eventually gets to the one that they have to block, they probably just can't pass the check.
Because normally how you would counterplay Lust for Battle would be to like purposely miss a block or just play a card you don't like that will guaranteed fail to clear it, but
if you play that in the Bertolt deck and that's the last of your cards in hand, sure, you can still activate the enhance on the card to draw 2 and drop 2, but at that point you're literally gambling and trying to hit 2 of the same suit. And you're just on, I really hope I DR some of these, otherwise I'm taking above printed, which is bad for me. So what it winds up boiling down to is you spend a majority of the Bertolt mirror because you're never going to go to 9 foundations on the front side of your character, and you are always better than the Death Bertolt deck on the front side of your character. A lot of these cards share the same like 2 symbols, Death and Fire, but the ones that are specific to Fire are some of the pre-board cards and the sideboard cards, and a lot of it is just boiling down to the Fire spam. Like Firestarter has a decent block mod, it's good spam. You're playing 4 2-checks in this deck, spoiler, so you need a lot of spam. And the Dobby spam interacts with remove from play cards, which there are a lot of on Attuned, so you can pick your symbol, and the symbol you wind up picking is Fire because this can regrow your hand size, which is important when you're, as we've just talked about, trying to make sure that you throw on suit. And the like hacked check from Ignite while having it being playable while committed basically turns it into 2 foundations in addition to capture the target. So both of these are basically building 2. So even when you wind up with like your 5-hander problems of like getting a 3 build on turn 1, these actually wind up counting for 2 apiece, so you get like 4 to 5 builds theoretically. With this deck trying to turbo and churn remove from play cards, and just by virtue of Bert being the most consistent character, you see all of your bing bongs or minus damage triggers. So you play 8 of them, you max out on those. What I didn't max out on as far as remove triggers, which theoretically I could have, but this performed fine over the course of the weekend as well, was I only played 2 Loss of Consciousnesses. Mostly I just didn't want to play that many 2-diff foundations because I'm playing 2 checks and I don't want my build to ever come down to if I win the die roll and I go on a 2, on a 3, I lose if I check a 2, because that would just be awful over the course of an extended tournament. So realistically, these could probably be these. These were not entirely too impactful over the course of the weekend, but it would have been nice to have more of these in a lot of the matchups where they have their answers post-board. So possibly sideboard 2 of these or replace these moving forward. And then also the last of 4 triggers is Feral Shriek, because as we've talked about, regrowing hand size and getting to 10 removed as fast as possible is incredibly important. It also came up a couple times in my top cut match against Travis and in a couple of my other matches over the course of Swiss, as well as during top cut throughout the day. The response on my opponent's turn at the start of their combat phase to reviewing the Lust for Battles to hack their first check to be -1 often changes the entire way that they have to play and makes them tank on the first card that they play out of the entire sequence or turn, which winds up like being incredibly favorable and changes a lot of their math, as like they're already accounting for -2 damage on every one of their attacks, maybe -4 sometimes, but what they aren't accounting for is having 3 to 4 foundations committed as early as their first card if they check poorly. So it changes a lot. The action that I'm playing in the main board is 3 copies of Go for the Win. It helps with, specifically if you build your like cards that you want to discard or see hit the bin during the enhanced step, you can remove them as a cost with this. Respond, I've done it a couple times where I would go, my opponent would play something that made me not play an attack as my next form. I would form on this, destroy a Lust for Battle that was in my stage, respond, remove the Lust for Battle, hack their next check by -1, rebuild 2, clear this from my card pool, and continue playing from there. Incredibly valuable card. I didn't play 4 of it. I don't think we had 4. That is the only reason. This card I'm a little iffy on playing more of. It was very good at 2. Often turboing with lethal slashes to get to 5 removed attacks is possible, especially if you're removing your wish hards as well. But getting to 2 attacks removed is comically easy, so this is often just a 3 low 5 on a 3, which is very good. It's just another 3-diff attack. We're playing teaming. It's also Fury, so it works with a lot of our attack package in that they all need to be Furies to be hits off of Stun Grenade, and we need to put a bunch of attacks into our card pool to power our teamings up, and by power them up, I mean make them cost 1, a la Alleyway Ambush, in that you are just kind of playing as many as possible, and then you get to the end of your string and you're chucking base 5s at people. So basically exactly Alleyway Ambush. But this card was good. I don't know if I would play more of it. I never sided it out. In fact, in a couple matchups, I would side out 2 copies of the Teaming, just because it is the worst card to lead with in your string because it's on an 8. But it wound up not mattering too much. Besiege is broken. That's it. Wishard, in this deck, you get a lot more equity out of using your enhanced step in trying to just like mill and churn through your deck. So more often than not, I actually threw this card as an attack, just because you want more attacks in your card pool to get to teaming. A lot of people treat this as like an orange action, but it's like perfectly reasonable, and like you can plan your turns out around having more attacks removed to get the +2 damage if you need it on increased hostility, or to get to 10 removed for like ignites or fire starters or anything of the sort. But this card was very good. Obviously, it's one of the best cards in the entire format. For Lethal Slash, this is the 2-check in the deck. A lot of the time, what you can do, and another one of the things, yes,
Yeah, it's one of the good ones.
Yes, one of the good ones. Another one of the things that you can do in this deck that is unique to the fire symbol specifically, post-board, we are playing Seizing the Advantage. And one of the strongest things you can do post-board into answers, or just in general in this deck, is say your opponent has like a Disarming Glance or Glare, whatever. You can first form, not first form, but your first form of the turn is Seizing the Advantage. Then play Lethal Slash as your second card, which will turn on its response to remove itself from the card pool. You clear the Seizing from your card pool, turning off as your first response to play, turning off their Disarming Glare. So your Lethal Slash works, and it's your second card played, so you remove it. So you're functionally clearing 2 from your progressive difficulty, regrowing a foundation, and getting to like have your Lethal Slash that starts at base 4 and can go upwards of like 8 to 10 damage be for 5 high. And that's incredibly, incredibly important. It also removing itself adds to your closer to 10 removed count and closer to number of attacks removed for your increased hostility. Kind of the bread and butter of the entire deck. What is the single most flipped Disarming Glance against card is Stun Grenade. Stun Grenade mills cards, so things that hit the discard pile during the enhanced step obviously removed for that. Very good in that regard.
Which is everything except for Mikasa's Admission.
Correct.
Right? Because that one has to be specifically from hand.
Yes,
yeah.
Everything except for Mikasa's Admission. In addition to that, removing Lethal Slashes with its own effect increases this card's stun rating. Also, oftentimes people will block with like D-Sphere on something that they don't have the perfect block for, which counts as the attack being removed. You also, a lot of what you'll see me doing on stream, or a lot of the minutia of this deck that makes it less of a fuck it, chuck it aggro deck and more of a I'm gonna sit there and tank and do stupid Rain Man math, is this deck plays 22 attacks right now and 63 cards. So a lot of what I do when I make my decision on am I going to draw 2 and drop 2 with Bert first, or am I going to mill with Stun Grenade first, is count the amount of attacks left in my deck. And if there are more foundations than there are attacks left, you draw first because that gets you closer potentially, or you draw into an attack, and either way you're winning in that regard. And then you mill with Stun Grenade. Because Stun Grenade, all the attacks in your deck are Furies, so anytime you hit anything, it is just incredibly, incredibly broken, even if it's telegraphed. A couple times against specific decks where you wind up committing yourself out because you are an aggro deck, a lot of the time what I would do is telegraph picking up in a teaming with Stun Grenade, and then leverage the +1 low block because Bertolt can't block. What? That's crazy. And then I have a +1 low block for their Walk the Dog that they usually lead with because you are down 4. You cannot be down 4 if you want to by re-ready and capture the targets, or blowing up ignites just for fun. You can still pay the cost of destroying it even if you don't have 10 removed. I did that a couple times to make sure that I had equal foundations with my opponent before I used Go for the Win, because sacrifice is a cost on Go for the Win, which puts you at below the threshold. So sometimes you have to leverage that. So the sequencing kind of matters. And then courtesy of Wub, for Pearl teaming with the Attack Titan. This card is incredible. Like I said, it's best related to the alleyway ambushes of set 2. And in general, this is like zone manipulation. Yeah, like I said, you do kind of just throw every one of your attacks in this deck. Sometimes you don't remove the Wishards with their effects. So a lot of the times this can just be zone overload, which is really, really valuable because you'll use the Blitz Enhance because you are turning through your deck, so you'll usually have 20 in your discard pile if you haven't cycled prior, to just pick whatever zone that they have blocked with the most on the turn, as long as they don't have like a struggling or a way to pick up a block again. And yeah, this card, for lack of a better term, it pays the light bill, unlike the hotel. Onto the sideboard. I would definitely have played more of this card. I would have liked to see it in my opening hands more.
We only had one in my bag,
we had one. The card that it would replace would be the third copy of Heroes Upbringing. In Bert specifically, I think 2 ofs are perfectly like cromulent and reasonable because you just churn through so many cards that like there's not really a reason for me to play 3 of anything because I will see one of it over the course of a match no matter what. I probably would have turned this into another copy of Stopping for Breakfast, but I did play 3 Upbringing. This card is incredibly important and very, very, very good with the remove when they hit the discard pile, or when they hit the discard pile during the enhanced step stuff. A lot of like messing with your opponent's math is removing your Lust for Battles when they don't expect you to by using a destroy cost on response. It's the same thing with like removing your Loss of Consciousnesses on first enhance when they have an enhanced trick. You just get to leverage your ability as turn player to do anything first. I played against a pony in Swiss, and I would wait for them to do their ability twice, and then I would Heroes Upbringing after they had 2 cards in their card pool to seal their character so they can't clear, destroying a Lust for Battle as the cost, responding and removing it, so their next check is -1, which means that they are put in the terrible spot of, do I continue trying to play the game without Pony and putting him low enough with -1 to my check, or do I build out and probably still die? The answer was they died. This card is very good against a lot of the characters in the meta. A lot of people are citing it in general. Red card is very good for throw decks. It is, in general, just like another 3 diff attack. Oftentimes, if I was playing against a deck that stuffed my card pool too much, I would like shave on certain ratios of like the 4 difficulty attacks to include more of these so I could potentially get to teamings. Because a very valuable trick that I learned probably a little bit too late but wasn't actually punished for until I played someone as good as Travis on the Chaos symbol was when you pitch for Bert, similar to the other effects in this game where you get to choose how things hit the discard pile, you get to pick the order of what you put the cards in your discard pile for. So against runaway decks, what I often did and what you'll see me tanking on the stream for if you watch the VOD back is sometimes I'll choose not to do plus damage if I think that my attack might get showdown or, not showdown, sorry, runaway specifically, and I'll make sure that the top card of my discard pile is an attack card, because if they run away me and they stuff something into my card pool, it will be the top card of my discard, which is an attack, which will give -2 to the teaming, and that can lead to your opponent either not using the runaway equitably or just using it and then not realizing and you like destroying them as a result.
Yes.
It's very cool. 2 Lunar Ring. There were 6 Mimic in Top Cut. I killed 2 of them. Not the Top Cut Mimics, but I killed 1 in Swiss, and I killed 1 in Top Cut off the back of Lunar Ring, and by virtue of the fact that that character has 25 health, and we pressure with 4 to 5 attacks every turn. They're not particularly adept at reducing speed. They're good at DR. However, we just play so many orange cards that it doesn't matter, and shooting with Lunar Ring, their Knots Flask, or VME, depending on if like we are post board or we are like in a world where they have that much momentum. Usually, if they've gone first, it's very, very, very important. I played against a Mimic in Swiss, and he saw the writing on the walls when I had the option to destroy his VME when he had 1 momentum or his Knots Flask, and I popped the Knots Flask. He said, "Oh, you have like 14 attacks then," and I said, "Yes." And then, as we talked about earlier, seizing the advantage, very, very good for getting rid of your opponent's sideboard tech, or at least forcing response hate. A lot of the time what this winds up doing is against the Chaos decks, you'll go, I will use seizing, I will try to hit your more important piece, and then they will either have the option to respond, I will use struggling to negate that, or like retarget it basically, because it doesn't stop it, it still comes down, it just retargets. And that will usually telegraph that, oh, I'm not trying, or your opponent is not trying to repeatedly use runaway on you in a turn, because they would use the struggling to do that instead to like stuff your string deck. Or if they let that fly, you go, okay, they have a runaway in hand, I can like, plan accordingly. But I had a lot of fun with this Bert deck over the weekend. Gigantic shout outs to specifically Ryan and Wub for essentially handing me a Top Cut, 35% equity to Wub, and then I forget how much you asked for.
I get 25 and Travis gets some amount as
25
well.
25 and Travis gets some amount as well.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You can have whatever's left.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well. That being said, I wanted to thank also Team MGLA, new team for me as of this year. Great group of guys, very, very helpful playtest partners, and super kind in general. And I hope to see everyone at Worlds, and have a great rest of your weekend.